Good morning to everybody in Canada and good afternoon in Europe. I am Kostas Kapsaropoulos, the Digital and Science Counselor in the European Union delegation to Ottawa, and I'm very, very happy to welcome all of you in today's webinar, another webinar in the series of our action plan to demystify, to explain the procedures of Horizon Europe in order to help Canadian researchers and companies to get full reap of the benefits of Horizon Europe projects and program. Today, we are going to talk about procedures related to Cluster 5. Cluster 5 of Pillar 2. Cluster 5 has the denomination Climate, Energy and Mobility. This cluster aims to fight climate change by better understanding its causes, evolution, risks, impacts and opportunities, and by making the energy and transport sectors more climate and environment friendly, more efficient and competitive, smarter, safer and more resilient. A very, very important objective. The areas of interventions are climate science and solutions, energy supply, energy systems and grids, buildings and industrial facilities in energy transition, communities and cities, industrial competitiveness in transport, clean, safe and accessible transport and mobility, smart mobility, and energy storage. I'm sure you all are very much looking forward to hearing everything about all these areas of intervention. I'm also very, very happy to say that once more we have a very high level and high number of participants. We have over 300 participants in today's webinar, as I've been told just before starting, which makes us really, really happy because we see that our webinars really target the right level of participation. And last word before I give the floor to Agnieszka to introduce the speakers is that I would like, of course, to thank all the speakers who have accepted to be here with us. So without any further ado, I give the floor to Agnieszka Weiner to introduce the speakers who will tell you everything about Cluster 5. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you, Kostas. Hello, everyone. My name is Agnieszka Weiner. I'm the team leader of the EU-Canada Policy Dialogue Support Facility, which is a project of the European Union in Canada, and we support European Union delegation to Canada in these webinars. So I will be moderating today. First, let me start with some, let's say, logistical issues. If you want to ask a question, feel free. We have a Q&A space in Zoom. We will be trying to answer your questions as we go in writing. Some of them will be answered by the experts live at the end of this webinar. So I wanted to say that we are very happy today. We will be talking a lot about Cluster 5, specifically on energy, which might be of interest. And I would like to start with our first speaker, Philip Peasty, who is joining us from Ireland, who is the national contact point for Horizon Europe for Cluster 5. He's based in Enterprise, Ireland, and he specializes in energy, the climate neutral and smart cities mission. He's also an NCP for nuclear fission and fusion energy and the national representative for the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. So I'm really looking forward to hear from you, Philip. I also want to say that because we are almost there, and the new work plan will be published very soon. Philip will speak a little bit about the new research areas and topics in the upcoming work program. So, Philip, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
And you can see my slide. It's okay, yeah?
All good.
Great. Continue on. So, yeah, thank you for the invite. So, Horizon Europe, it's a huge R&D program. It's Europe's largest research program, close to 100 million euros, or 100 billion euros, should I say, over 7 years. I know Canada associated to the program a year or two ago, and they can partake now as coordinators or participants in projects. And the question is, why really why should they even look at it? So as an example, a few years ago, I worked with an Irish company. They ended up coordinating a project in the energy electrification area. And recently when I met them, they've been involved in several projects. And basically they said they weren't really interested in the money part of it. They weren't even really interested in the technology part of it. What they were interested in was the collaboration. They use it as a method to get more customers across Europe, do more collaborations, and get involved in what's happening in the next few years. So they use it as a sort of a platform of a broader idea than more than just research. So I'm with Enterprise Ireland. Enterprise Ireland is a national public body that helps SMEs grow and export. Enterprise Ireland also funds some research groups, competence centres, also supports funding to individual SMEs around feasibility studies and internal research and development. And as part of Enterprise Ireland, we have a group that basically manage the Horizon Europe network. So within Enterprise Ireland, I probably have about 10 or 11 colleagues in this particular group, and we cover the various clusters and the other pillars of Horizon. We also work with other organisations in Ireland. So, for example, on the bottom of the screen there, you can see a list of organisations that we work with. So the EPA, which is our Environmental Protection Agency, we would have national contact points within that particular organisation. The HRB, the Health Research Board. So the network is managed by Enterprise Ireland, but we involve quite a number of stakeholders in other organisations. Now, the beauty of, well, I suppose in some situations, Ireland has a disadvantage because we're small, but in other areas, our smallness gives us really good communication access to all the various groups. So we're quite au fait with what the research areas are happening in Ireland, and we can link people up. So we've got a good overview of what's going on in Ireland. As I was mentioned earlier, I cover. Actually, when I introduce myself to researchers in Ireland, I say I cover energy for European funding because I cover hydrogen, the life, clean energy transition, a few other areas. But the nature of EU programs is that they're very cross-cutting. So, and that also comes into the Horizon Europe itself. So even though today we're looking at Cluster 5, there are quite a lot of other energy areas in the other clusters. So, for example, in Cluster 4, where you have the industrial area, you could have energy issues around industrial practices, energy efficiency in industry, and using more and more renewables in an industry setting. So, if you're into energy, if you're looking at Horizon, don't just look at Cluster 5. There could be opportunities in other areas. So Horizon Europe, as I said, Canada is associated to Pillar 2. There's a number of clusters. Cluster 5 is energy, climate and mobility. Also, the areas are covered are civil security, inclusive society, health, etc. The rules and regulations that I talk about during this presentation will apply to all the clusters, really. And then each cluster will have its own peculiarities in terms of definition and organisation. But most of the rules under Cluster 5 apply to any of the clusters. So Horizon Europe is actually, it began in 2000. It's nearly 100 billion euros. Cluster 5 is climate, energy and mobility, has about 15 billion. And where are we? Well, the 2025 work programme, which will be a single-year work programme, will be launched later this month, with the first opening days in May and the first deadlines in September. The final work programme for Horizon Europe will be 2026-27, which will be a single work programme covering 2 years. And actually, we've already started the drafting of the 26-27 work programme. Now, the beauty of having a 2-year work programme is that the calls, when they're launched, will be available for quite a long time, so people can do a lot of planning, a lot of consortium development to target specific topics. Now, the downside of that is that Horizon Europe really is not short-term research. It's a longer-term strategy. It takes quite a bit of time from the call to be launched, applications to go in, evaluations to be done, and then all the way through to project start. So you're talking maybe a good year before, from a call closing to a project starting. But it's long-term research. It's long-term strategies. So what's expected from the programme? So most researchers I meet are on the energy side, are very much interested in the technology. So I'm here today in University College Dublin. UCD is actually one of our highest performance research institutes in terms of Horizon Europe funding. And today I was talking to researchers on the energy side, and they were interested in the grid integration and also in renewables. But when you're putting in a proposal into Horizon Europe, it's not just about the technology. There's quite a broad scope of information required. So there's the scientific impact. So it's about creating high quality new knowledge, strengthening human capital, and fostering diffusion of knowledge. But then there's also the societal impact. So this is around delivering benefits and impact via the research and innovation missions, and about strengthening the uptake of research and innovation. So the societal impacts are quite important to all the cluster areas under Horizon Europe. So it's not just technology. And actually, in a sense, Horizon Europe is actually technology agnostic. So if you have a call about photovoltaics, ultimately what they're interested in is the impact of those photovoltaics. And linked to that then is the economic impact. So energy can be quite simple in terms of what they want. So we want clean energy, but we also want cheaper energy. So the impact of the proposed research is quite important when you're putting a proposal together. So it's all about growth. It's about creating more and more better jobs, and it's about leveraging investments. So again, even if you're doing a research topic, a research proposal under Horizon Europe Energy, they're very much interested in the cost implications and the scaling up potential. So they're not interested in funding research that really has a good theoretical view. They're interested in research that has longer term impacts. So the work programme. Every cluster has a work programme. As I said, the 2025 single year work programme will come out in a few weeks. Each work programme is a single document. For cluster 5, I think the 2025 work programme is nearly 500 pages. It'll probably be more by the time I actually get the final copy of it. So there's quite a process in developing the work programme. So it starts off with the Commission, the organising groups within the Commission, the DGs, they're called DG Energy, DG Transport and DG Move. They put a draft work programme together, but they get that draft work programme by, first of all, talking to the advisory groups. This is a special advisory group set up for Horizon Europe. They also talk to the European technology platforms, which are both research platforms and industry platforms. And you can see on the slide there quite a lot of logos, from the Built for People to ETIP Wind. So there's tens, if not 100 or so platforms linked to development of the work programme. And also then the work programme looks at the EU strategies. So the EU Commission continuously come up with new strategies. So a few years ago, they had the European Green Deal. So the Green Deal is about making Europe climate neutral by 2050. So climate neutrality by 2050 is quite a hard task, I would say, financially as well as technically. And then the Green Deal then drives quite a lot of the focus. So also a few years ago, the Commission devised the missions. So there is a climate neutral city missions. So they selected 100 cities across Europe to be climate neutral by 2030. And here in Ireland, Cork and Dublin have been selected. So they're in the process of developing their strategic plans. So all these areas influence the work programme. And even recently, just in February of this year, the new Clean Industrial Deal was launched by the Commission, and that's looking at heavy industry and also the Made in Europe significance, which will influence what comes up in the last few years of the work programme. So then the Commission issued a draft to the Programme Committee. I'm a member of the Programme Committee for Ireland. I know I've seen the Canadian counterparts online at Programme Committee meetings. So the Programme Committee then get a copy of the draft work programme, and they consult their stakeholders, and we feed into the programme. As member states, we feed into the Programme Committee. It goes back into draft. And for the Cluster 5 work programme, I think we went through about 5 drafts. And then the call goes into the Commission for budget allocation, a final sign-off, etc., and the call opens. So there's quite a long process from developing the first draft of the work programme to the final draft that's launched and will be publicly launched at the end of this month. This process will also happen for the 2026 and 27 work programme. Now, the only problem with the 26-27 work programme is we don't have as much time. There was European elections in end of 2024, and that delayed the publication of the 2025 work programme. But that delay gave us more chance to actually influence the work programme. But for the 26-27 work programme, we won't have as much time. So actually, only this morning I saw an email. We have the second draft of the 26-27 work programme that your Canadian counterparts should have, and you'll be able to see what's coming up in 26-27. So this is the timeline of the 26-27 work programme. The first draft in mid-April I just received. We'll finish a final draft in around June the 12th, and that will go into sign off in the Commission services before the end of the year, and will be ready before December. So as I said, there is time, but the time is short for you to have a look at the drafts, talk to your Programme Committee members in the various clusters, your Canadian contacts, or even come back to us and we can have a chat with you. So on to the actual work programme itself. So Cluster 5 covers climate, energy and mobility. It's broken down into 6 destinations. Now, I suppose I'm a native English speaker, and when you go to Brussels, sometimes you can see a variation of the English language, and they keep coming up with new terms, acronyms, ways of speaking, and it's Brussels speak, as we call it. So the structure of the work programme starts off with destinations. So there's 6 destinations. And then within the destination, there's a call area. And then within the call area, there are individual topics. So, for example, in Cluster 5, the 2025 work programme, Destination 3, which is around the energy supply, it will have 27 individual topics. Now, everything is on the EU website. It's called the Funding and Tenders portal. But actually, I would recommend, once it's available, download the work programme for Cluster 5. The work programme will be 400 or 500 pages, but all the topics will be there. But the introduction to the topics will also be there. And this will lay out where the topics are coming from, the strategic roadmaps that the Commission are interested in. So if you're writing a proposal, if you're going to coordinate a proposal, one of the key areas in a proposal is the impact. So the work program will give you an idea of what impacts they're looking for, as well as the topic text. It will give the good introduction around impacts, and that can be used when you're writing a proposal. So a good hint is to download the work program and keep a copy of it. All the information is available online, but it tends to be split up into various different pages. So this is an example of a topic coming up in 2025. Now, this is a draft. I don't expect it to change much, obviously, between now and the call opening. So it's about control and operation tools for a renewables-based energy system. So as you can see, it will have a topic identifier. So it's Horizon CL5, which is Cluster 5, 2025. 02D317, so quite a crazy numbering system, and the Commission keep changing that. I've seen a copy of the 26-27 work program, and it has a new numbering system, just to annoy us. So the interesting thing here will be Cluster 5, Destination 3, and that's the energy system topic. So it will give you specific conditions that the Commission estimates the contribution will be. So here in this case, they have 20 million euros available for this particular topic, and they expect topics to be looking for funding of around 10 million from the Commission. Just moving that there. So they're going to fund about 2 projects under this particular topic. The type of action it's an innovation action. So this effectively is a demo type project. I have a slide on the differences between the different actions. The call detail will also give you eligibility conditions. Now, there's not much listed here, but in the final version, there could be a few more listed about in terms of if there's any new funding mechanisms, etc. It talks about the technology readiness level. Now, this is quite important under energy, especially under Horizon Europe. Each topic targets a TRL. It's quite important under this Cluster 5, not so much used under some of the other clusters, although they do use it. But in this particular case, it says activities are expected to achieve TRL 6 to 8 by the end of the project. So you're putting in a proposal, you should be sitting at maybe a TRL 3 or 4, which is an early stage prototype. And the research you're going to do, or the innovation you're going to do under this innovation action, will bring that research, bring those demos up to TRL 6 to 8. So then you go on to the text of the topic itself. It lists the expected outcomes. So the topics under Cluster 5 and the topics under all the clusters are very much top down. So the topics state what the problem is in certain cases, what they're looking for, what they expect as impact. So it's very much a prescriptive type topic in the cluster. So for example, here, this is the topic on the renewable-based energy system. They're looking for improved preparedness of electricity system to look for 42% renewables. Talks about the grid operators looking for improved tools. It talks about the grid operators designing smart grids at various voltage levels. It talks about the interaction of the distribution and the transmission systems. So you can see the text under the expected outcomes are quite prescriptive, and really you need to be addressing as much as you can under this specific topic. The second part of the call of this particular topic talks about the scope. Now, the scope is really what should be done in the project. Sometimes it describes the problems or the challenge. As an example now, this particular topic, projects are expected to demonstrate the integration of power electronics, IEDs, software, etc., demonstrate real-time monitoring, consolidate data streams, and develop a concept of a flexible and programmable electricity distribution system. Now, the words in the topic text are quite important. In some cases, it says should or must or can and expected to. So for each topic, you need to really go through the topic text and underline these particular requisitions in order to understand what they actually want and then address them. So, for example, the final part of this particular topic talks about some of the other expectations. So it's looking for collaboration between TSOs. It talks about the number of TSOs that should be involved in a project. It talks about it's expecting at least 5 distribution system operators. So this is quite a big topic. It talks about having demonstration activities in at least 2 pilots. So that's an example of a single topic, and each topic will be laid out in similar structure. So it's quite important to go through things. So as I mentioned, under energy, they're quite enamored with the use of the TRL, the technology readiness level. So the TRL actually was based originally from the American aircraft industry about building from design to full concept. So it goes from TRL1 to TRL9. So there's 3 types of projects that the Commission funds. So a research and innovation action, which is 100% funded for all partners, plus 25% overheads. Or you have an innovation action, which is 70% funded for industry and 100% funded for non-profit or research organizations, for example. So these 2 particular topics look at a TRL. So the research projects look at a TRL from around 3, 4, and 5, and the innovation actions, which are demo projects, are looking at maybe 6, 7, and 8. Now, some topics you might branch over into TRL 5 to 8, for example. So again, the TRL is quite an important part of the topic definition. So the consortium size, and as with other clusters, there is a minimum consortium size of at least 3 partner organizations from 3 different EU or associated countries. So I have seen projects with just 3 partners, but that's a bit of a rarity. Usually research projects, there's about 7 or 8 partners. And innovation actions, which are demo projects, they go all the way up to maybe 25, 30 partners, depending on the budget available and what the Commission are looking for. So we move on to success rates. And this is one of the criticisms we would have had here in Ireland around the success rate of Horizon Europe. If you talk to the Commission, they would sort of express a success rate of applicants at around 15 to 20%. Here on screen, you can see from the years of 2021 to 2023, under energy, under Cluster 5 work programme, so the destinations have a success rate there on the chart, varying from 37 down to 19. But if you look at the specific topic areas, so for climate science, on the left, the climate science has a topic success rate of around 37%. Whereas the buildings destination has a topic success rate of about 17%. So it actually can vary quite a lot, and it can vary each work program depending on the topic being requested and depending on the topic content. Now, actually, what we're seeing quite a lot lately is because of the introduction of AI, the Commission are getting more and more submissions which have been clearly created by AI, and that's creating a bit of a problem, and it's starting to skew some of the success rates in terms of the number of applications, etc. But it's on average, the success rate is probably around just over 20%. So how do you start? Well, the first thing to do, if you want to put in a proposal, you need to register on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. Registration is quite easy. It's like creating a bank account. Actually, it's probably easier than creating a bank account. You go in, put in your email, put in some details. You get what's called a PIC, a personal identification code, so that you can use that number as the beginning of a submission system. Very little detail is required to put in a proposal. It's only when proposals are selected for funding that the validation of the organizations come. So you can put in a proposal without worrying too much about putting in company details or organization details. You can start off by putting in the basic information that you can get under the PIC number. So then you have to find where the submission system is. That's also under the EU funding and tenders portal. So you go in there and you find a call. The calls will be listed, and then you go in through the call details, and the submission system is in there. The EU funding and tenders portal has now become the main submission system for quite a lot of funding mechanisms under the EU. So you have Horizon Europe, you have LIFE, Innovation Fund, etc. So they're all using the same system. It's a way of trying to simplify the system for researchers that target quite a number of different programs, but everything is in there. Now, the downside of that is sometimes it's hard to find exactly what you really need. So I recommend bookmarking things if you find something interesting. Another tool you can use, and it's also linked to the funding and tenders portal, is the Horizon dashboard. The dashboard basically is a database of the projects that have been funded, gives a lot of information. There's a huge amount of information. You can look at individual countries, you can look at individual organizations, you can do keyword searching, technologies, across the energy system. You can use the You can use the dashboard to get quite a lot of information on what past projects have been funded, what organizations have been involved in those funding. You can see the breakdown of funding per project. So it's a vast resource that can be used. I just want to mention, when you look at the Cluster 5 work program and you look at the topics, a lot of the topics mention partnerships. So the EU is a huge program in terms of funding, but they also want to use a lot of these partnerships to actually give the money into various areas that they're interested in, so to be quite targeted. So at the beginning of Horizon Europe, they created 49 European partnerships. So if you look at the middle there under Cluster 5, there's 11 or so partnerships. There's different type of partnerships. And the ones in navy blue are what's called the co-program partnerships. So these partnerships end up developing quite a lot of the draft topic text that end up in the final published work program. So if you're interested in looking at it as a strategic view, you can join these particular partnerships, and you can get involved in the various working groups under the partnerships, and then you'll get access to curriculum development and text that will end up in a lot of the calls that come out in future years. So the partnerships are quite important. And we have a number of new partnerships coming out. We have a new solar photovoltaic partnership. There's a new initiative. One of the initiatives from the Commission is a Repower EU. So after Russia invaded Ukraine, the EU wanted to get off of fossil fuels. So they put a lot of money into developing hydrogen. They want to do further developments in photovoltaics. So a lot of that funding will come through the partnerships and be distributed out into research groups and organizations. Another important part of Cluster 5, and especially in energy, is this European Strategic Energy Technology Plan. This actually, there's a link here, and the presentations will be available afterwards, so you can use the links. So the Strategic Technology Plan is the technology plan for Cluster 5 for energy. So there's 10 key action areas. So there's renewable technologies, the cost of the technologies, there's batteries, biofuels, carbon capture, etc. And then there's a number of working groups, and each of the technology area probably have their own working group. And they end up developing the roadmaps. So if you go into the CETUS website, which is the link there on the bottom of the screen, you can go in, if you're interested in photovoltaics, you can go into the set plan, you can go to the photovoltaic working group, you can download the roadmap that they see for 2026 and 2030, and you can see the areas that they're interested in. So if you're putting a proposal together, you need to be addressing the set plan and the roadmap detail. So the set plan and the partnerships are quite important when you're looking at Cluster 5. So now we go into the actual work program for 2025. Now, I obviously, we're in draft situation, so I can't put up the full topic things may change, but the titles are probably set in stone at this stage. So Destination 1, I mentioned the work program was broken into 6 destinations. The first destination is around climate science. So this particular destination is really about modelling of climate science. So you can see the topics there. And again, I won't go through all of them, but these are research topics. So these are 100% funded. They're looking for research. They support climate science. So the first topic is to support the work of the IPCC. You can see a modelling topic on fluorinated gases, and then adaptation to climate change, etc. So these 6 research topics, is all around climate science. The first deadlines will be in September. Now, again, the call will come out end of this month. The call will officially open in May. But when it do, just double check the opening dates and the closing dates, because of all the things that can change. Sometimes they keep messing around with the deadline dates. So it's quite important to double check that. So we move on to Destination 2. Destination 2 is the cross-sectorial section of Cluster 5. And if you see there's 13 topics. About 7 or 8 of the topics will be around battery development. So Commission C, the EU plan around energy is very much focused on batteries, not alone lithium-ion batteries, but newer future batteries, sodium batteries, etc. So the topics can be research topics, they can be innovation action, and they can be coordination support actions. So coordination support actions are really networking topics about developing market uptake strategies, etc. So you can see the areas, so recycling of EV batteries. So you'll find research into the materials, you'll find research into the battery management, and you'll probably find research or innovation actions in the manufacturing of batteries. So there's probably something for everybody, anybody's interested in batteries under Destination 2. There's also a number of other topics under Destination 2 that there are more coordinating type topics around the partnerships. There's also an interesting topic. It's a coordinated call with India. It's on waste to hydrogen. So it's a topic where the Indian researchers get funded from India, and the EU and member associated countries get funding from Horizon Europe. So they get the funding from the European and associated side. And it's very much a coordinated type topic where the Indian project and the EU Horizon project work together. And it's about using biogenic waste, especially waste that can't be recycled. So maybe waste from forestry or sludge or stuff like that. So that's an interesting topic. Destination 3 really is the renewables and the grid destination. So I mentioned earlier that Cluster 5 has 1.2 billion in the 2025 work programme. Over 400 million of that goes to Destination 3, which is sustainable, secure and competitive energy. You can see the topics listed there. So there's topics on biofuels, geothermal, hydropower, solar thermal, wind, etc., PV, wave. And then there's topics around the energy systems. So it's about maintaining the energy system. It's about improving the energy system. And there's very much a focus now around digitalization of energy, and obviously AI fits into that. So there's topics there. And there's also a number of topics on carbon capture, utilization and storage. And that has 2 deadlines. The first one will be September, and then we'll have a number of topics out in February 2026. So again, anybody's interested, topics are available now through drafts, and the final version will be online in a few weeks' time. So Destination 4, it's 84 million. They're going to fund around 17 projects for 6 topics. So each topic will have 2 or 3 projects to be funded per topic. Destination 4 is energy, sustainable and inclusive energy use, or sort of efficient, sustainable, inclusive energy use. It's really the buildings topic, and it's around residential buildings, commercial buildings, and also industrial buildings. So these topics are talking about robotic and automated solutions, smarter buildings, positive energy districts, and for industry, it's intensive industries and more renewables linked up to it. So the deadlines for this particular topic will be February 2026. And as you can see up in the corner there, the Built for People partnership have quite an influence on what comes out in the Destination 4 and these particular topics. So Destination 5 and Destination 6 are really the mobility part of Cluster 5. So Destination 5 looks at transport modes, so clean and competitive solution for transport. So it talks about zero emission transport, aviation, waterborne and health. And there's a number of topics in each area. You can see the budgets there. So under the zero emission road transport is talking about battery electric vehicles, about management, efficiency of design, optimized concepts, cyber security. So there's quite a lot around electric vehicles. Around aviation, there's a topic on next generation wind tunnels and next generation autonomy for cockpit assistance applications. Around the waterborne transport, there's topics on onshore power supplies, onshore renewable energy solutions, and then battery systems and low carbon fuels. And then around the health area, there's a real-time monitoring emission from vessels. So there's 2 projects there. Most of those topics will be September 2025, and the last topic is January 2026, actually. That's a mistake. Apologies. So then we move on to Destination 6. So this is about passengers and goods, mobility service for passengers and goods. And the partnerships here are the CCAM partnership. So you're talking about human driving behavior, AI, large-scale CCAM demonstrations, automated mobility. Then multimodal transport, it talks about materials and techniques and innovative air mobility and services, etc. Actually, one of the things I didn't mention was under Cluster 5, we're running this societal readiness pilot, and this is about, so a number of the topics under Cluster 5 will have these requirement where social engagement, so SSH, social science and humanities, will be very much, the Commission see this SSH as part of all the projects. And they find it actually hard to get it embedded in a lot of the technology projects. So they keep trying these pilots to get more and more SH involved in research projects. So a number of topics are listed as societal readiness pilot. So there'll be further requirements in the topic text around that. You've got your proposal ready. You submit your proposal. What happens is there's a deadline. The deadline is fixed. So on September the 2nd, say if the deadline is it's 5 o'clock Brussels time, and anything after that will not be accepted. So there's no leeway. The submission time is an eligibility criteria. You can't get in on board after the deadline. So it's quite important to meet the deadline, plan early. So the proposal goes into the Commission. Once it's submitted, then there's an individual evaluation. So the Commission have panel of experts. So for each proposal, there's a minimum of 3 evaluators per proposal. And usually for the larger projects, it's probably 5 or 6 evaluators. So there's an individual evaluation by those experts. Then there's a consensus group. Then there's a panel review. And then there's a finalization of which projects they want to put on the main funding list. Now, the evaluation, the proposal submission is, they keep reducing the number of pages. So for a research and innovation action, the number of page limit is 45 pages. Now, there's 1 or 2 exceptions there, especially for the big demo projects. The CSA is limited to 30 pages, but it's only 45 pages, and it's broken down into 3 areas. So you have excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. So the third area there of quality and efficiency of implementation, that's really the project management. And when you have 45 pages, you probably have about 20 pages or so of project management. So you don't have many pages for your setting out your idea, and you don't have many pages even to define the impact. So it's quite important to really have a good look at your proposal structure. Each area is as important. So each area is scored, and you have to score above 3 out of 5 in each area, and then you have to get above 10 just to be considered for funding. So you can't just focus on your research. So I know it's a criteria, it's a criticism I have of a lot of research. They love the research. They're well able to talk about the technical side of the research, and then they forget the project management. But the project management is quite important. So each of those 3 areas is as important as the other. And remember, you're getting evaluated on the proposal you're submitted. You can't expect them to look at your technology area and think, oh yeah, that's brilliant, we'll fund that, and then worry about the management afterwards. No, everything is evaluated as you submit it. So it's done in 2 parts. Part A is an online detail. It's about the partner's information. It's done online. And then part B is where it is 45 pages. You create, put it into a PDF and you upload it. And it's that part B that's evaluated under these 3 particular areas. So the timeline, as I said at the very beginning, this is not short-term research. It's long-term strategy development, really. So you put in your submission. The Commission have 8 months from when the call closed to start the projects. It takes about, in theory, it takes about 5 months to get the evaluation done. In actuality, they've gone very good at that. They have most of the evaluations done in about 3 months. And then they do the grant agreement. And again, in theory, they have about 3 months to do the grant agreement. But usually the grant agreement falls down that when you have a consortium of about 10 or 15 partners, usually one of the partners holds things up. So having a good, tight consortium in this process you can go through this process as quick as possible. And you can see the grant agreement structure there. You get invited. If you're accepted for funding, you have to put your details together, the Commission review it, and then it goes back to consortium, and then there's a few iterations, and then you sign the grant. But it takes about 8 months from the call closing to the project starting. And typically it's probably about 9 or 10 months before the project starts. So if you have a call deadline in September of this year, you're talking about the end of summer next year, 2026, before the project starts. GreenNet. So I'm an NCP. I'm part of a network of NCPs across Europe. Each of the clusters have networks of NCPs. The network of cluster 5 NCPs is called GreenNet. You can see the link to our website there. The GreenNet website is a huge information base. There's a partner search tool there. There's a document repository. There's a stakeholder directory. And there's a lot of webinars around the various areas of Horizon. So, for example, there's a thing called lump sum. It's the way Commission fund projects. It's about they've changed over from a single cost model that they had a few years ago. So there's a lot of webinars in these particular websites around the various new tools that the Commission are using. Also, the info days, the Commission will launch the calls in early May. There will be a number of info days. Each cluster will have its info day. The link is there. Cluster 5 will be on Tuesday, May the 6th at 9 p.m. Central European time. It's online only in terms of the information. There is an actual brokerage event which will be based in Brussels, and you can find that detail through the GreenNet brokerage event, or if you want to contact me later, I can put the link up. If you want to understand how the Commission develop these proposals, what they expect from proposals, a good way of finding out is to sign up to be an EU expert. So you see the link there on the bottom left. So the Commission are always looking for experts to be evaluators to evaluate the proposals. They don't have enough experts. They're constantly looking for experts. So you can go online, you can pick your area, you can sign up to be an expert. It's paid, and as I showed earlier, you evaluate separately, and then you do a consortium group meeting, and then you pick the projects that to be accepted. But being an EU expert is a good way of getting involved in Horizon and finding out about other proposals, good proposals, bad proposals, what's expected. And if you're quite interested in research, it's one of the things we always recommend to our clients here in Ireland. Another area that you could look up signing up for is SINEA. So SINEA is the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. So the Commission run the calls. They don't actually evaluate the calls themselves. They use these executive agencies. So SINEA is one of these executive agencies. So once the work program is developed, it's handed over to SINEA. The SINEA then run the calls so they organize the calls, they organize the deadlines, they take in the proposals, they organize the evaluations, and when the projects are kick off, they actually organize the project management. SINEA are principally around climate, European climate. So they also run various other programs for the Commission. So the Innovation Fund, the LIFE program, the Clean Energy Transition Program. So they have 7 different programs. So if you go to their link there, you can sign up for the various newsletters, and they're quite good at sending out information about this call is opening, this detail is available, this information is online, these webinars, and you can sign up for webinars. So the SINEA is a good port of call for a lot of information around Horizon Europe. So we're just a quick slide on Ireland. So Ireland to date has drawn down 893 million from Horizon Europe, which started in 2020. We have 488 unique participants, so different partners from Ireland. There's 488 of them. We're in nearly 2,000 individual projects. Cluster 5, of that 893 million, 111 million is in Cluster 5. So we're quite active in Cluster 5. And our most successful areas, I'm actually here as I said earlier, I'm in University College Dublin. Of all of Horizon Europe, they also have around 100 million research funding from Horizon Europe. So they're quite active here in University College Dublin. But our most successful areas on Cluster 5 in Ireland in total is around ocean energy systems. So that's the grid integration. So here in Ireland, we're pretty good at putting renewables on the system, a lot of wind on our energy system. So we have quite a lot of expertise in that particular area. We're pretty good in the buildings, building management, positive energy districts, etc. And we're getting into hydrogen. So there's a new focus from the Commission on hydrogen. They're putting more and more money into hydrogen. And in Ireland, we have a new hydrogen strategy. Now, we always had a good research community around hydrogen, but it was quite small, but that's growing. So, for example, in Galway now, we have a hydrogen valley. And again, on the other side, on the mobility side, we have a number of projects on the clean aviation. So these are particular areas, if anybody's interested in looking for partners from an Irish base or want to talk to us about what expertise we have, these are some of the areas that we're quite good at. So that's everything I have. There's my email address. I can give out the context, my phone number, etc. And at the start of the presentation was our Enterprise Ireland network, so you can see all the various NCPs across all the clusters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip. That was really very interesting.
Too much?
Wanted to no, not at all. And you see, in the Q&As, there have been questions that I marked already as directed to you. You can find them under the tab Answered Questions. You will see that I put your name under them, so you can start answering if you feel like it. And let's move to Maria Pawłowska, who has been with us, since January. She's an expert in research management with a focus on international research projects between EU and Canada and research collaboration between the two partners. And she has a lot of experience with writing and managing the EU-funded projects, and she's here to help us understand how to write a proposal for Cluster 5. So, Maria, without further ado,
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Agi. I guess at this stage, I should say welcome back to everyone or anyone who's already seen this. Wait, I think I haven't. And apologies, there will be repetitions because I assume not everyone has seen this, and it's important for me that everyone has the same baseline knowledge. So I'm going to jump right in. I have been graciously given an extra 5 minutes, so I will try to speak maybe a little bit less slowly, but there's a lot to get through. Because honestly, we could do a 3-day webinar on just applying on just the grant writing, and I have 30 minutes. So this presentation is titled Do's and Don'ts. So I always begin with the do's and don'ts. I think Philippe mentioned a lot of them, and it's wonderful synergy that I get to speak after him because he's covered a lot of what you need as an introduction. The first thing is it's really important. Don't try to convince the Commission what it wants. The Commission knows exactly what it wants. This is top-down driven research. They're telling you what they need. They want you to solve a problem for them. And if you can't solve that particular problem, but you have great ideas for something a little bit different, then I'm afraid you're just not going to get funded because they want what they want. And there's huge competition. The success rate is around 16-17%. So there will be someone who's giving them exactly what they want. So honestly, just for your sake, for your time and your partner's sake, make sure you are answering the exact questions and providing the exact research that is being requested in the topic call. Give yourself plenty of time. This is a reoccurring theme. The work program is going to be published soon. You have until September, so you're going to have about 5-6 months. Use those 5 months. As Philippe said, download that work program, read it, whether you're a researcher or a research administrator. Although again, in Europe and associated countries with a longer experience of this, a lot of this will initially be done by research administrators. Make sure you have time to either start a consortium or join one. The writing process and making sure everything aligns is something that takes time. Understand the EU evaluation criteria. That is, Philippe's already introduced them. There will be another speaker coming after me who will give you more detail about it. The important thing is you're not writing for the tri-councils, and I can't stress that enough. These proposals are very unlike the tri-councils, and whatever things you've learned that have been successful for you in your tri-council applications are honestly unlikely to be very transferable, other than the good writing and being able to write convincingly about your research and straightforwardly. Obviously, that's always transferable, but in terms of what is asked for and how it's being asked for, it's very different. So make sure you understand the evaluation criteria. The European Commission is very transparent on all of this. The exact same package that the evaluators receive in terms of the evaluation criteria, you can download off official websites. This is all available to anyone to read and see how you're going to be evaluated. So please make sure you know that. And choose the right consortium, as is, I'll talk a little bit more about that, and all of us really will. You get funded as part of a larger team, and that larger team needs to be the exact right people to do the job. And you need to make sure that a lot of thought is put into both assembling this team and explaining why they are the right people for this. So this is just a little very, very basic workflow of how you want to approach thinking about an application. You go onto the Funding and Tenders portal, which has been given a great introduction to. You look at the work programs. If you don't have an account on the Funding and Tenders portal, you get yourself one. You choose a call. The work program, it's nice in the sense that, the titles and the destinations give you an idea of where to look. However, having said that, chances are that your research could be covered by more than one work program. Even if you think you're very obviously in cluster 5, it's worth taking a look around because the way that calls get put into work programs is not necessarily always super aligned with the way you might think of your research. Building and joining a consortium is the next thing that I know there have been a lot of questions about that. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. And I'll give you some ideas of what you can do. Look up networking events, matchmaking services, and open days. We have mentioned these already, and there are more coming. ICID's been organizing them. The EU Commission organizes as part of Horizon Europe activities, there's a lot of these. A lot of them are also available just online or as hybrid events. So please look into that. You don't have to fly to Brussels or Warsaw because Warsaw's the presidency now. So a bunch of matchmaking events are being organized there. You don't have to fly to Europe to participate in them. Assigning roles, again, I'll come back to that. This is very important by both assigning roles as part of the application and assigning roles in the project itself. That this is the way these projects are structured. There's a quite strict way you need to divide this. And finally, research services. I know a lot of you are probably already, well, you work for research services at your institution. Some of you are researchers. Please, those of you who are researchers, make a point of reaching out to your friendly research services staff at your institution. And again, those of you who work at research services, the way this works at a lot of institutions is that researchers will be approached by their research services staff with suggestions of what to apply for. And when I mean approached, I mean often it's literally knocking on people's door, like physically, not even just an email. We hear this all the time from partners in Europe, sending out huge emails saying, work program has been published, or, here's all the things on the funding and tenders portal to everyone at your institution. Doesn't tend to garner interest. Everybody gets too many emails. If there's something that seems to fit one of your researchers' profile really well, go talk to them, pick up the phone, knock on a door. This is how it's done. And then if it leads to successful completion, this is a lot of the work that research services in EU and associated countries do. So just also in terms of background, Philippe's talked about this quite a bit, and it's really important to understand how the European Green Deal is really the background for all of this. For this particular cluster especially. And we're working at a time when there is a Canada-European Union Green Alliance. So you're already building on, as part of applying for Horizon Europe, on diplomatic and political and other actions that have been taken. So there is an ecosystem that you are becoming part of. So this is the European Green Deal. It's basically, it says it right there, striving to be the first climate neutral continent. So this is something to keep in mind as the overarching goal of what Cluster 5 is about. It's important just because how different it is from the Canadian system to understand almost, what the author was thinking when these programs were designed. The Horizon Europe is very much and very openly a tool for achieving Europe's political goals. And this is one of the top political goals there is. The political goals will come up again when we talk about gender equity. But this program is a tool to help achieve this political goal. And it just so happens that this is a political goal that, a lot of researchers in Canada are also working on in organizations. So this is a great fit and something where we can actively contribute. So in terms of the differences between Canadian and European applications, I want to point these out because a lot of researchers are used to writing up their research. That is honestly almost the same across the board. Here are things that are different and will be new. In terms of DEI, gender is the only aspect of DEI that is considered. There's no such thing as an Indigenous stream, for example, in Horizon Europe funding for, historical and political reasons. There are very few Indigenous populations left in Europe, which again doesn't mean your experience with Indigenous communities won't be useful in these applications, but there's no such thing as an Indigenous stream. And again, gender is the only aspect of DEI that gets considered. There are 3 categories for self-identification. And what's important is that gender is mainstreamed into research. It's not something you describe separately. It's part of being evaluated for excellence. So the excellence criterion, that where you write about how wonderful and amazing your research is, in that part, you have to include, as an applicant, how you're mainstreaming gender, how you're considering gender at every stage of your research design, and who actually does the research. I'll come back to that in a sec. But you have to make sure that when you're working on in Cluster 5, you want to consider the use, for example, of some of these systems. Where are they going to be used? If we're talking about batteries, for example, it could be what are the batteries? Is EV cars, for example, is there an aspect where you can consider the usage of cars versus a gender spectrum? That is something that will be considered. And there's latest research that's been out just looking at applications. The gender criterion decides up to 12% of applications who finally gets funded. Because as we see here, gender balance among researchers involved in projects will be strongly encouraged and will be taken into account for equally ranked proposals. So when you are listing who's on your team, you have to, in terms of researchers, you list their gender. And if you get an equal number of points, which happens a lot of the time, a lot of applications get, sometimes there are calls where all the applications get top points. So what you want to look into, and that is when the evaluators at the last stage will look into gender. And the project proposal that has the most women on board will be the one that gets funded. So this is, and again, 12% of calls have been decided this way. This just came out a few weeks ago. So it's definitely something to consider. Again, it's a tool for achieving EU political goals, in this case, increasing gender equality in STEM and research. So this is how they go about it. In terms of open science, this is also different than it currently is. For example, for the tri-councils, it's changing a little bit. The tri-councils have now, the latest open access policy is aligned with, more or less, I should say, aligned with what Horizon Europe requirements are. But Horizon Europe goes beyond just open access. So at the moment, there's immediate open access. That is also what the tri-councils require. However, for example, you're not allowed to fund APCs, so article processing charges for hybrid journals, from your budget in Horizon Europe. Because again, we're trying to achieve political goals here of supporting Diamond Open Access, which is free to read, free to publish. There's also an RDM requirement. You need to submit a data management plan within 6 months of having your proposal accepted. There's a requirement for fair data. This needs to be described in the application, how fair data considerations have been taken into account when designing the research. You also need to think about reproducibility, metadata, and broader considerations of open science, such as citizen science, including voices outside of traditional academia, etc. All this is actually taken into account when assessing open science. So it's within the UNESCO definition of open science and going beyond open access. Oh, sorry. So getting to the proposal itself, this is the first part of the proposal, which if you go onto the online system and fill out this information, it will automatically update it for you and just populate it with the information you've given. I'm not going to spend too much time on just this slide, but we'll get here. And this is the budget. So an average EU grant, and as averages go, there's issues with averages because some grants are obviously 3 million euro, other are 15 million euro, but the average grant is around 5 million euro, which I hesitate to convert now because of what's happening with currencies, but it's quite a lot of money. And this is the only table that you have to fill in to get that money if your project is otherwise successful. There's no additional really forms to fill in. However, it can take months to fill this in because every single participant needs to say how much they want and what it will be spent for. And as you can imagine, in a project that has anywhere from 3, but rarely 3, more like anything from 5 to 20 organizations participating in it, the division of resources, budgetary resources, can take time. So you want, even though there's not a lot of numbers really acquired here, it takes time to fill this in and make sure, again, if you're a researcher, you've run this by your finance officers, because some things may seem obvious to you and might actually work differently. For example, you can't really buy a lot of equipment, and there's other ways of financing that you want to make sure someone who will run the budget has also seen this. What's important, and this comes up, there is no in-kind financing required for research programs. For the R&I, everyone gets funded 100%. The only in-kind you provide are the names of the people who will work on the project, but again, their pay will be funded through the project. So you are not expected to provide anything in kind. For the innovation actions, the IA, it always says this in brackets on any call, businesses, for-profit institutions can get 70% of their funding. So there is an in-kind requirement, but if you're from a research institution or you're participating in an R&I, research and innovation action, everyone gets funded 100%. So that's something important to consider. So we come to the technical description. And it's divided into sort of 3 sections. And when we talk about these sections, we like to give them the famous W questions to just help in thinking about them. So there's excellence, which is the what of the proposal. And this is where you want to explain what is unique about your vision and why do you want to achieve it. And why is it important? And again, why is your particular idea for solving this problem better than anyone else's? Why is it cutting edge? It has to be cutting edge. It can't be an incremental addition to what's already happening. That is part of why, especially in R&I actions, that is incredibly important. Again, 17% success rate so far. So chances are you're already competing with some of the best people in the world. You need to prove why your idea is the best. And then methodology. What is unique about your approach? And it is surprising to me every time how, because this is the methodology, the objectives and ambitions and methodology are the bit that researchers write. And almost that's a big part of what they write. They don't necessarily write a lot of the rest of the application, but this is purely the section that is given to researchers. No one else should know the methodology and the vision better. However, I am continuously surprised while working with researchers on these applications about how often poorly the methodology is written. And there's 14 pages for this methodology. By the way, when the commission says, for example, 14 pages, they mean 14 pages, unless you have an incredibly good reason to make it more or less. Again, the commission knows what it wants. It's clear and transparent. You stick to the guidelines. I highly recommend that. So you have 14 pages to describe your methodology, and you want to use those 14 pages, and you want to be very clear. You are talking to people who are experts in the general area, but might not be experts in your particular field, in that particular little slice of what it is you're doing. So it needs to be detailed, but it needs to explain things to a point where an expert in your general area, but not your methodology, will understand it. And it needs to show why your methodology is unique. So I guess what I want to say is there's very little room for fluff in these applications. You don't want to necessarily go on for pages about grand ideas. It really is about specifics, and about the specifics of your vision. And again, methodology, 14 pages. There's a reason there's so many pages for that, because effectively what that money is, that 5 million euro, for example, is money that they're giving you on the basis of trusting your methodology, that your idea for solving whatever problem it is, implementing with this particular approach, is the best way. So this is what you really want to focus on. Finally, there's the research, data management in excellence, and management of other outputs. So you want to talk about how you're going to be generating the data, how you're going to make sure it is aligned with and managed in line with the FAIR principles, and how you're thinking about your metadata as well, and how the idea with Horizon Europe is that any data underlying a publication must be made open, unless there are very, very good reasons not to, for example, privacy concerns. But you're working with the idea that it will be made open, and you need to show from the very start how you are working on your data sets to make sure that they will be easily and usefully made open. That is why they mention reproducibility, right? It needs to be not only in a repository, they don't name the specific repositories, but it needs to be in a respected repository, and it needs to allow for reproducibility. So you have one page to explain how you're going to do that. This is the place you might want to talk to your friendly data management librarians at your institutions. Unless you're absolutely an expert at data management, I would absolutely recommend you talk to an expert about this, because it's an important part of the application. And again, it's a tool for achieving political goals from the Commission. Okay. again, this is where you also want to write about your gender mainstreaming. And you need to think about that if you have a DEI person at your institution who works on gender or just DEI, you might want to talk to them about this part of the application and how you've mainstreamed gender into it. The impact, why? So I'll show you suggested projects pathway towards impact in a sec, but this is, importantly, I've taken this straight from the documents for Cluster 5, the official documents. R&I actions will prioritize co-creation and social innovation approaches to address data sharing and privacy concerns, better comprehend and integrate the diverse needs of citizens and users, and promote skills development to meet future labor demands. What they're saying is they want you to include social scientists a lot of the time. It's not just about technical solutions. This is, again, part of the overarching goals of the European Commission. If you look at their documents about Cluster 5 and the green transition, on that first page, it says that it's supposed to be inclusive and prioritize people over technology. So even if you're working on a very tech type application, you want to consider this aspect, and you want to think of the human, both consequences and aspects of whatever technology it is you are developing. They tell you in the documents, the official documents, that prioritizing co-creation and social innovations will be what they're also looking to do. So again, I have done this for you so you don't have to. In terms of, I've taken the expected impacts from the strategic plan for Cluster 5. So this is what they are looking for. I'm not going to go through this. You're going to get these presentations. You can get a general idea of what it is that they're wanting. And it says which areas, so which applications, et cetera, which partnerships. It just, what are they looking for? What impacts do they actually want? What do you need to think about when you're writing up your impacts? There's also the cross-cluster complementaries. This is interesting. This is, what can you do with your research? Who can you partner with? How can you elaborate on what you're doing to achieve impacts outside of just Cluster 5? And again, they're giving you the ideas. They're showing you what you want. And, I've taken this for you. You don't need to go looking for it. Just so you can think about filling out this part of the application, right? Here it is, the impact section. And again, it's this is taken straight from the actual application. And the application, when you download it, it includes these examples. It guides you through it, walks you through what you want. The examples are not necessarily for Cluster 5 or your application, obviously, but these have been provided in other documents and are now in this presentation. So you have a lot going for you to think about the impacts. However, again, this is a place where I would highly recommend researchers on this call to talk to tech transfer or knowledge transfer people at your institution. This is the part of the application that in a lot of EU or associated countries, the researchers don't necessarily write themselves because they do the research. What happens next or the broader context of that research is not necessarily something they are expert at writing about. So you want to make sure you have run this by someone who thinks about taking research, so to speak, out of the ivory tower and out of just journals, because this is what it's about. And it's really important that this has been seen by people who think about those applications as well, and those measures, for example, communication, right? Researchers are really great at knowing to publish their papers in journals, but other means of communication towards citizens or exploitation of products, that might not exactly be where their expertise lies because they're researchers and not tech transfer people, for example, right? So this is where you want to have a team that works with you on this. There's target groups, outcomes, impacts. These are, again, all from the presentation. Again, for example, if you look at impacts, you're looking at economic and societal impacts as well as scientific. So there's this added section where you have to think broadly of your research and you have to make sure it doesn't just tick the box of being really interesting for other researchers. Finally, there's the quality and efficiency of implementation, which is the how. And this is where you write up your work plan with the work packages. The work packages is, again, where the researchers come in and do a lot of the heavy lifting. and it needs to happen in close collaboration with other partners. This is where a lot of that happens. You are discussing who does what, and it doesn't need to be one partner per one work package. Honestly, it rarely is. You get particular tasks or particular deliverables that are assigned to particular partners for very, very good reasons, because they are experts in a particular methodology, or they have experience with this type of production line, for example, or they have access to it, right? You need to provide deliverables that make sense and that are useful and that will actually be delivered, needless to say, and a list of milestones. And this is a bit of a tightrope walk here, because there needs to be not too many and not too much. So you really need to think through, talk to your partners, talk to research administrators at other institutions, and think about these things. The risk assessment needs to actually assess risks. And you need to think of all the risks possible. You're getting a lot of money. They need to know that you have thought of how things can go wrong. And because you've thought of how things can go wrong, there's a chance of putting measures in to prevent that, right? You really, the risk assessment is very important. There's a lot of people competing for this money, and they want to make sure, your evaluators, that they give it to people who will keep it safe, right? Again, that is one of the basic concerns. Person months. Brussels speak has been mentioned. Person months is a very Brussels speak term. It is basically a discussion about wages, right? How many people work on the project for how long, in which institutions, and how will they be compensated? Assume this will take a lot of conversations with your partners as well, because the majority of the budget will go to wages. So this is where a lot of the conversation is. And you need to describe the capacity of participants and your consortium as a whole. And, back to the old adage, what you're trying to do is show how you are more than the sum of the parts, how taken together in this consortium, you can achieve so much more than if you all worked separately, and how you can actually achieve that goal of the problem, of solving the problem that has been presented in the call. So what can you do now? And in terms of building consortia, this is my first piece of free advice that will cost you 3 minutes of your life. Talk to colleagues in Europe. And by talk, I mean, you can send a one-line message to any of your collaborators in Europe saying, I've written out for you, hey, Canada joined Horizon Europe. If you're working on any proposals, I can partner with you. Let me know. And just send that email to your European, friend researchers. If you're an administrator and you have relationships, have been exchanges, visits at other EU or associated countries' universities, send out that message. It takes very little time and can be very consequential in the best way. Make sure you advertise your availability. A lot of researchers and institutions know Canada has been associated, but not everyone. Make sure people know. Read the work program. That is the start and end of any conversation. Make sure there's something there that you can participate in. Assemble an international and local team. As I've mentioned, as I went through this presentation, this is not a job for one person. It's not even honestly a job for necessarily 2 or 3 people. You need, just writing your section, you need to have a team that can help you think about this. Follow the guidelines. Don't stray for them. Just word for word, do what they ask you to do. Assume there's going to be plenty of iterations, align work packages, milestones, and deliverables. It should all make sense. Researchers should assume they're writing the methodology and work package, but the rest of it should perhaps largely be done in consultation or honestly by someone else at your institution who knows about DEI, for example, or technology or knowledge transfer. You'll get the slide here is all some resources, including a model consortium grant agreement and more information on lump sum funding, which comes up quite a bit. And thank you. I hope I was right on time. So thank you very much. And I will now stop sharing.
Thank you, Maria. We got some questions also for you, so please look at those who have not been answered, but also if you have anything to add to those that have been answered, you are absolutely invited to. And without further ado, I would like to move to our evaluation expert. And today, this is Katalin Balas, who joins us, I think, from Budapest or somewhere in Hungary anyways. And I'm really very happy to host Katalin with us because she brings to the table really long-term experience in Horizon projects, both as a person writing the proposals and evaluating them. And Katarina knows a lot about Horizon, so you have seen she has been already answering questions. She's really a great source to help anyone clarify any doubts. So Katalin, I don't know if you can start now, share your screen, and let's go.
Okay, hello everyone. So as Agnieszka said, she asked me to give you a deep dive into understanding the Horizon Europe evaluation process in 20 minutes, which is rather a challenge, but I'm trying to live up to. And I think Philip and Maria already gave you quite a bit of information on which I will definitely try to build on. So the evaluation process, as you could already hear, is crucial really to ensure that the most impactful and promising proposals are selected for funding. So understanding this process will help you to craft stronger and more competitive applications. And today we'll walk through the key steps in Horizon Europe evaluation. So you know exactly how your proposals will be assessed. And with this knowledge, you hopefully will empower you to develop proposals that are getting better aligned with the program's priorities, and you will get to know the evaluation criteria and giving you the best chance of securing funding. So let's dive in and explore what the Horizon Europe evaluation process is in detail. In this presentation, we'll walk through the key steps of the evaluation process. And this includes the role of evaluators, how the proposals are assessed, and the specific evaluation criteria used. And I will end with some practical tips and resources to support US Canadian applicants. So where does the evaluation fit in the whole process? As you could already hear, also in Philip's presentation, from the proposal submission to the grant agreement signing, it takes around, typically it takes around 8 months, but the evaluation process itself typically takes up around 2 to 5 months. And why this evaluation matters? The whole evaluation process promotes transparency, fairness, and it's a merit-based selection. It really helps to ensure that the funds really go to high-impact, high-quality research that aligns with the EU priorities that we've heard before. It also builds trust and consistency across applicants by applying according to clear and consistent criteria. Before deeper diving into the specific evaluation criteria and how the proposals are assessed against, let's look who are the evaluators, who evaluate proposals. So it's these experts are selected by the European Commission through open calls to evaluate proposals, and these experts have the relevant academic, technical, and policy expertise that is matched to the proposals. And evaluators do sign declarations of confidentiality and to avoid any conflicts of interest. And there are lots of guiding principles to a very transparent process. These include independence, impartiality, objectivity, accuracy, and consistency. And the evaluation panel includes a mix of EU and international experts. So Canadians can also register to be evaluators, as already mentioned by Philip. I also list here the link and really encourage you to explore this part of the EU Funding and Tenders portal. Being an evaluator, it's really a rewarding exercise. You can learn a lot of seeing how others write proposals, and also to see how really the evaluation process is working, along which you can again gain a lot of experience in writing much better and more successful proposals. And the standard evaluation process, so what are the main stages? Already, I think, mentioned again by Philip, but here's a more detailed slide about it. I won't read out all because we have really a short time. But after the receipt of proposals, there are sort of consistency checks by the EU officials, and they also contract the evaluation experts. And then the individual evaluation phase starts. Evaluators have roughly a month or so to write very detailed assessments according to very detailed evaluation grids. And then these individual evaluations are kind of merged and discussed at consensus meetings that gives the draft basis for the evaluation summary report that would be sent to applicants together with the final evaluation result letter. But before that, there's a panel review. There are very strict consistency checks and quality checks, and then the finalization. So it's up to the EU Commission's Research Executive Agency to review these results and put together the final ranking list. And then the results are communicated to all applicants, or at least coordinators. Now, looking at the three evaluation criteria already mentioned by Philip, it largely coincides with the main structure of the proposals. So we evaluate excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. So the excellence looks at the scientific technical quality and methodology of the proposal. The impact considers the expected outcomes, and contribution to the overall program objectives. The quality and efficiency of implementation evaluates the work plan, the consortium, and the risk management. And you can see here in the bottom of the page the scoring breakdown. So each criterion is scored on a scale of 0 to 5, with a minimum threshold of 3 out of 5 per criterion. The overall threshold score depends on the type of the action, such as 10 out of 15 for research and innovation actions or innovation actions. And these rigorous evaluation criteria ensure that only the highest quality proposals are selected for funding. Well, how to interpret the scores? If you would look at evaluation summary report, you will be finding these kind of scores, and it's important how do we understand them. And there is also an official definition for the score descriptors. So how do we mean minor shortcoming and shortcoming a significant weakness? There is very specific language of proposal evaluation, so evaluators really have to learn it, I have to say. And we need to use these kind of descriptors in interpreting the scores themselves. And now let's have a look at, I just created 3 slides about the 3 evaluation criteria, sub-criteria per various activity types. I don't think that we'll have time to go into the very details of this, although these are really important. It really depends on the topic call and the type of activity that these evaluation criteria, sub-criteria would be taken into account. And on the very bottom of the page, you can see the link to the evaluation template. So you can download it, and I highly advise it to really have a look and try to, when you're writing your proposal, try to think also with the head of an evaluator, because then it helps you to really balance the text within these very limited characters that you have in the during the proposal writing. And here are the evaluation criteria for CSAs. Again, at the bottom, you can see and download and explore the detailed evaluation criteria for yourself. And for the co-found activities, I put in the link what a co-found activity is. So when it's really in your topic core description that this is a co-found activity, you have to understand it. And it also relates to the European partnership. So all the underlined things are really links that you hopefully will be able to further explore for yourself once the presentation material is shared with you. And I would rather like to more focus on elaborating a bit what are you required to develop under the 3 criteria from an evaluator's perspective. Mostly this holds for research innovation actions and innovation actions, since these are the most kind of popular type of actions among the topic calls. So under criterion 1 excellence, to really score big on the excellence criterion, you need to demonstrate the clarity of objectives. As Maria also stated, it's really important to define very ambitious yet achievable, and you have to prove that this is achievability by measurable and verifiable goals that are pertinent to the topic core text, show a cutting-edge methodology, propose a sound, innovative approach, also including social sciences and humanities if it's required by the topic description as appropriate. Use interdisciplinary thinking, so bring together all those diverse perspectives and expertise. This is why you really need to have a kind of interdisciplinary team. If it's required by the topic call, they usually are required. Gender dimension in the research and innovation content has already been extensively discussed by both Philip and Maria, and open science as well. So evaluators will be looking for proposals that really push the boundaries of what's possible, so give them a glimpse of your team's visionary thinking. At the bottom of the slide, I'll give you some further resources where you can get further information on how to really understand gender, what is social sciences and humanities in Horizon Europe proposals, how do we evaluate open science in Horizon Europe proposals. Under the criterion impact, to score high on the impact criterion, you need to demonstrate really credible pathways to impact. So how your research would lead to tangible, measurable outcomes, how it credibly contributes to the, on the one hand, to the expected outcomes of the topic, all of them, and but also in the longer term to the wider impacts of the related destination of the work program. Then effective dissemination, exploitation, and communication is really key. So it's not just enough to do some research, but you really need to make it available in an open way, and also to get your project known to the world, and to get your results really used by either your research community or anyone else who might be in need of that. And then the strategy for management of intellectual property, how you're gonna suitably support with the strategy the exploitation of your results. And you should also identify meaningful key performance indicators that should be realistic metrics to track your wide-ranging impact. So evaluators want to get project funded that will really make a difference. So give them confidence that your work will really make a positive change and contribute to the wider impacts on the long run. Under implementation, Evaluators will scrutinize how you plan to execute your proposed work, show them that you have a robust, well thought out implementation strategy, highlight that you have a clear, realistic timeline of milestones and effective resource allocation, and you do have the critical and significant infrastructure that is needed to implement the project. Complementary expertise, how each partner contribute really. What is their contribution, why they are necessary partners in the consortium, and demonstrate that they bring together the diverse, really synergistic skills. Also, under Cluster 5, it's important that industrial commercial involvement, if it's indicated in the topic description, is taken into account, and risk management, really to identify and to have contingency plans to keep the project implementation going. Also, again, in the bottom, some resources for you. And Maria already touched upon lump sum funding. This is kind of a new mode, or, increasingly popular mode of funding proposals, because it removes all the obligations on actual cost reporting. So it helps participants to really focus on, during project implementation, on the content. The one lump sum share is really fixed in the grant agreement for each work package. So the lump sum financing really means that once the work package is completed, there will be the payment. And on the other hand, the effectiveness of the work really remains important. So you cannot really split your process of work into very small, very little work packages to make your financing continuous. So it needs to be consistent in this sense. You have here the link for the lump sum detail budget table, because going for a lump sum call means that perhaps the implementation would be easier, since you don't have these kind of obligations and actual cost reporting. But at a stage of project proposal writing, of course, it is a bit more complicated, because you have to design a very detailed budget. So you can check out these detailed budget tables here in this Excel book. And the evaluator checks the cost estimations, whether the resources proposed and split up shares are reasonable and really allowing for the completion of the activities as described in the proposal. Checking costs are based usually on professional experience, but also against objective data. So, for instance, for personnel, the evaluators are obliged to use a Horizon dashboard that is already been mentioned by Philip, where actually the person month rates of already contracted previous projects. So it's kind of a historical data of staff costs per various organization types. And the evaluators check against this dashboard database whether the partner's claims for staff costs is kind of reasonable in the various per various countries. Here are some common mistakes as seen by the evaluators. So we often see that grant proposals are vague or unrealistic, have unrealistic objectives that don't really clearly define what's in the project, what the project really aims to achieve. This is why it's really crucial to read the call text thoroughly and really interpret it as closely as possible. The impact section can lack a clear pathway to achieving the intended outcome. Sometimes it's very dizzy, as well as insufficient engagement with key stakeholders. If you really want to make an impact, you have to engage your stakeholders across the value chain or the related topics. The work plans can be fragmented or overambitious. That's neither of them really good, making it unclear how the project activities would be really executed. Budgets are sometimes not well justified, with costs that are unclear or unsupported with the activities. And there can be an imbalance between the defined roles and responsibilities between the project partners. So make sure that these descriptions are really evident and help the evaluators work in finding the right information as easy as possible. So as Mario already showed you, there is a very clear structure for proposal writing. But when you look at the evaluation grid, it's also important that you try to think with the evaluator's head and try to write your proposal in a substructure within the given frame that helps to find the right information for evaluation as easy as possible. Because evaluators really have a very short time in cases. So sometimes, for instance, last time I had 1 month for evaluating like 8 proposals. So you would have to read 8 times 45 pages and really give a very detailed assessment according to the grid, which takes a lot of time really. And if a proposal is really juggling around with information here and there, it's very difficult to find, then the evaluation process again becomes more difficult. So here are some tips to strengthen the proposals. So what we already mentioned and emphasized many times, it's really critical to thoroughly read and understand the work program and the core text, because this will ensure your proposal is well aligned and with the funder's priorities and requirements. Use clear and non-technical language as much as possible. Well, of course, in the methodology, you will have to go into the details more in a technical language. But other than that, it's important to make the proposals really accessible and easy to understand for the reviewers. Coherence is also really crucial. So make sure that your objectives, methodology, expected impacts are well aligned and form a cohesive narrative. Include tangible and measurable outcomes and metrics that will help to demonstrate the real-world impact of your proposed work. And finally, involving end users and the relevant policy actors can strengthen the proposal, especially for projects with strong applied and policy focus. So after evaluation, what's next? If your proposal was successful, then you would get an invitation letter for grant agreement preparation. The grant agreement preparation phase includes refining the project deliverables, conducting ethics checks, and finalizing the budget before the project can officially start. The project can only begin once the grant agreement is signed and the pre-financing payment has been received by the consortium. If the proposal is unsuccessful, feedback will be provided in the evaluation summary report, and this allows the applicant to revise and with the potential to resubmit the proposal in a future funding call. Well, the key message here is there are clear steps regardless of the evaluation outcome, and unsuccessful applicants have the opportunity to improve and reapply. I also included here some links to how to really go if you have any complaints against the evaluation summary report. Then some tips for Canadian applicants. Tailor your proposal clearly to the specific topic call. This shows you understand the program's goals and priorities. Emphasize your proposal aligns with the EU policy priorities like the Green Deal and the Clean Industrial Deal and other strategic policies. Build a strong interdisciplinary team that includes EU partners. This demonstrates your ability to work across borders. Clearly describe the expected impact, outputs, and outcomes of your project. This helps the evaluators to see the value and potential of your work. Take advantage of the support offered by your national contact points to navigate along the application process, and also the research services, as mentioned by Maria. So the key takeaways is this slide highlights the rigorous and transparent nature of Horizon Europe evaluation process. It's important to thoroughly understand and address each evaluation criterion in your proposal. Strong impact pathways and meaningful stakeholder engagement are crucial to a successful application. Even if your proposal is not selected, the feedback you would receive can be a very valuable learning tool for future submissions. The key points summarize the core elements that evaluators will be looking for, so keep them in mind. Will help strengthen your Horizon Europe proposal. And here are some further resources and support, including the Horizon Europe Funding and Tenders portal that has already been mentioned by the speakers before, the program guide, the online manual that also details the evaluation criteria, the proposal evaluation standard briefing, which is kind of 100 slides. It's a bit amplified presentation of my presentation. And I would like to thank you for your attention here.
Thank you, Katalin. I hope that everyone enjoyed it as much as I do. I always like to hear about evaluation, because in the end we are all writing and structuring our research ideas to fit into some expectations, right? And it's important to understand the expectations, even if you are a partner really in the consortium, and you need to clearly understand your role within the larger project. So without further ado, I will invite or I will present the next speaker. So Pedro Crespo del Granado is an associate professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. And we are always very much excited to welcome here the representatives from the institutions that are not directly located in the European Union. Pedro specializes in energy economics, energy transition, power system operation research, and the data analytics. And he really comes to us with a large experience that encompasses various roles, including project coordination, leadership, and scientific contributions within the European funding programs. And he currently leads the largest EU project on energy system optimization. Its name is iDesignRes. And when we spoke with Pedro earlier on, I kindly asked him to present the project itself, but also his way towards it, including the institutional support he got, his way from the research idea to actual project, and then maybe to share some lessons learned with us. So Pedro, the floor is yours.
Pedro, you're just muted.
Thank you for the invitation, and I'm really happy to share a little bit this experience that I had, and have a discussion a little bit in how from the Norwegian experience we can integrate the Canadian perspective into the next projects that are gonna. Let me share my screen to start my presentation. Yes. So yeah. So we'll share my experience over here in Norway, it's almost 5 p.m. So I'm at home now. I just came back from the office, so might be some kids around in my background noise. So just to apologize in advance. So this is I'm talking for Norway. This is Trondheim city. You can see this is where we have NTNU. NTNU is a university top in Norway and top in Europe, and we are among the top 20 institutions in Europe on terms of EU grants acquired as a total budget. So the top 20 in the last statistics of the EU. So we have managed to be very active and very successful in applying and also running projects. And we are in the top 20 of all EU institutions. And as was mentioned, Norway is an associate country of the European Union, but as it will be the same for Canada, we have the same level of activity or proactiveness as any EU country. So just to give you a little bit more some detailed information about what is about me that is specific here, because then you can understand a little bit of the project that I have had experience. So as I was mentioned in my bio briefly, I am in this intersection between engineering and technical analysis and economic assessment, so a little bit in between this operational research where we do optimization and system design with mathematical programming. So this is our core expertise in my group and the group here at NTNU. And this we apply to different energy systems that go from microgrids, buildings, distribution grids, national one, and then we also go to the European level. We have a European energy system model, but also we do this on power markets and so on. So anything that has an optimization model that is for planning or real-time operations is where we apply this background knowledge. So but I think there's been very nice talks earlier today about why Horizon Europe. I think so here I'm going to give you my reflections on why. So I think Horizon Europe and Horizon programs from the European Commission are very competitive, required, as you have already seen in the previous presentation, are quite knowledge about how to build the project and how to write a very competitive call. So because of that nature, it makes a very prestigious success if you participate in one project, or if you lead a project, or if you are work package leader in one project. So it has a really strong prestigious component, and also the calls and the projects are structured in a way to find synergies among different countries, different fields, different cultures, and that's really enriched about coming up with new scientific ideas and scientific excellence. And also the Horizon project also tries to push for impact, and that also makes it a little bit also more thinking more outside of the box, outside of your field. And depending on your country, there's a lot of incentives and a lot of great aspects that open up with Horizon Europe. So in my case, it has been a great way to establish a really large network, establish very strong collaborations, reputation, and so on. So it really opens many doors, and that it's really difficult to explain in a few words. So, and this is a little bit my summary on the experience I had. I have acquired around 15 grants, either participating as a work package leader or a task leader or contributing to tasks. So I have managed 15 new grants as one of these activities. And I have led one Horizon 2020 project, and I'm leading one, this iDesign RES. which is the one I'm gonna talk about the most now. So yeah, so in all of this is what I said is about this strong collaboration, strong synergies, and good scientific outputs. I think that's what I really like also about Horizon EU, is that there is a good drive to get good impact and work together. But now I'm going to talk about this Horizon project that I am the lead, and that has started last year, 2023, and is Horizon project focuses on developing planning tools for long-term and short-term operations of the energy systems, for the grids, for gas network, for the transition. So it's basically looking at the uptake of renewables into the future of Europe by focusing on more granular analysis of the technologies, granular analysis of spatial resolution and time resolution. So because sometimes in models we need to compromise complexity, computational time, and other aspects, and we try to do that with different fields and different perspectives, and this project tries to bridge these gaps by looking into this. And this project has 22 partners. The project is also a total budget of 7 million euros and around it's around 600 to 700 person months more or less financed with this. And was a very competitive call called the Energy System Modeling and Optimization and Planning Tool. So, and this is a research and innovation action call that was announced in 2021, and with a deadline in 2022. So yeah, and this project also has one feature that you probably already heard in the previous talks, that to have some kind of demonstration, some kind of action planning depending on the TRL level. So there we have put a couple of demonstration cases about how you use these tools in different settings, for different purposes, and for different needs, under different stakeholders. And then we use these optimization tools, energy system modeling, into these 5 cases. We have the case of looking at the North Sea, looking at the wind and hydrogen, looking at different aspects. So these are a little bit the way we have put the real impact in use cases. And that's also why we have 22 partners here, because from these 22 partners that you see the logos here, only 12 partners are actually research institutions, and the other partners are end-use partners. So we call it, partners that can give us direct one-to-one feedback on the usage of these models, usage of that, the inputs, and be active and help us improve the impact of the project, instead of having, detach them as just stakeholders. They have a very small budget, but they join meetings and so on, and their hours paid and so on, so they can also take up some responsibilities and stuff. So that's also, we have so many partners in this project. So how was the process of creating this project? So I think this is my general recipe that I use in this project, and that I use in many projects. And then I will show a little bit more what happened when I use this recipe. So usually you start with that you have a couple of networks, partners, contacts that you find a call text that is interesting. Oh, this call is interesting. Yes, we should do something here. We have done something. You have this paper that relates to that. I don't know. Then the thing that it's a big challenge and a big effort is to find a partner that will take the lead. a partner that will take the responsibility of coordinating. And that's most of the time a challenge. Maybe you want to do it, but you don't have experience. Maybe you want to do it, but you don't have time, or you don't have enough competence, because sometimes the call text, you have competence one part, but not the rest. And then you feel that because you don't know everything from the call text, you only can understand certain parts. So what I do is that we find a lead. We try to find a lead, but maybe we don't find it. So what we do, we start with a core team. You check your closest partners or friends and say, look, I found this call text. We should do something here. I don't know what we can do. I have these ideas. And then with a core partner or two core partners, you start discussing that. And maybe one of these core partners will say, oh, look, I have a contact in Portugal. I had a contact in Greece. And then you start reaching out of potential people interested. And most of the time, everyone's interested. Everyone wants to get into a proposal that has a good chance. But of course, you need to know if they are serious and they are competitive enough for this. That you sometimes you don't know. You just learn by being on the ground with them. But it's core to have a core team that you can rely on, a core team that are into this and they are committed to it. And then when I mean the core team is 2 or 3 partners. And then with these 2 or 3 partners, you will brainstorm a first structure, a concept note, what should be the main elements of the project. Maybe this is the work package structure, start the building blocks. And then you will, after that, start implementing and coordinate partners. And then start working on the task, starting working on the work package lead. And then when you have a little bit of some clarity there, you might then start drafting the excellence section. And it was mentioned also you need to start preparing for the portal, information. And then when you have this part a little bit more mature, and then it comes the time that you can write the impact section. Because everyone in the partners will have more or less a mature state on understanding the key principles of the project, the key activities, and then they can sort of really relate about what should be the impact in the methodology section. And then you might end up also rewriting certain parts as you mature the proposal. So if I put this in a figure, so it's a bit easier to digest, and also to give other tips here, you have the call text, and they say, this is interesting, yeah, and I have an idea. And the idea has a couple of elements, but of course it's just an idea that you're thinking on your own bubble and your own thinking as Esfera. Then you might reach out to partners, so your close network. And then with your close network, the first thing you do, you see you are interested, and then you start drafting an implementation. Maybe at this stage, you don't know who is the lead, but if these things matures, people start getting more interested, and maybe somebody will volunteer to be the lead because they feel there's a confidence, there's a motivation, there is a team. Maybe you don't have to be the lead, but somebody else will just jump in and say, yeah, let's do this. Or you might also have the opportunity that another consortium is being formed at the same time, and then you merge with this consortia. So in Europe, the rumors spread quite quickly when somebody's building a consortia, and then these things start creating themselves. So you start writing implementation, but the typical thing is that you write implementation, but you will find that you need partners. Okay, I want to write about a task with certain settings, but I need a partner that is specifically for this task, specifically for that kind of competence that I need, that my network and my friends, they don't have. So in some cases, you need to just Google it, just to find out, who has that competence and who has the experience, and maybe some kind of, recognition on EU projects that you can sort of send an email, look, I'm building this project for this call, let's talk. So this partners match is something that is going to happen in any project. You need sometimes more partners that you didn't think you need, and you don't know where to get them. If you have good EU support in your university or networks are attached to the university, you will get a bit more hands that can have secondary contacts. And then you will see when you have these matching partners that joined, and other partners that joined, they start destroying a little bit of implementation because they want to put their own stuff there, and they want to change things because they think differently. There's a lot of iterations, and this is why you start changing your idea. And here my philosophy is that if you want to join this project, you want to work in this project, first of all, you need to think about what you can do for the project, what you can do for the call text, and don't think about what the project can do for you. This is a catchy phrase, but I tell that several times in my consortium meetings because there's our partners that are just there to try to get some money and just put whatever they want, and then there's not a concise thing with the call text and the whole idea. Yeah, so now I can tell you a little bit about the journey in the IDesign RES, so to give you a feeling about what happens and how this structure I show you plan out in a very summarized slide. So the call text was already out in 2020, 2021. So in June 2021, I organized the first meeting for the call. And the deadline for the call was April 2022. So I started more than 10 months before. Why did I do that? Because I already had experience in a previous project we led that we started still more or less early in that other call. But what the mistake was there is that if you start too late and you want to capture key partners, key institutions, key names, you want to start earlier because you want to get them before they are compromised with another project or before they are building their own project. So in June 2021, I already said to everyone in Europe, my contacts, I'm leading this call, marking my territory a little bit, and saying that all the key partners are here, and then retain them as much as I can to avoid they join other projects or to avoid that they build their own project. So that's what I did throughout 2021. Then in 2021, at the end of the year, I created first concept note of the project, reassured to the core partners of the ongoing effort. And then in January 2022, I had the first work package structure developed. And then from January 2022 through March, a very intense period where we have monthly, weekly meetings. So weekly meetings on developing proposal every week, 45 minutes. This is what are we doing now? This is what's next. The communication has to be fluid. And this is one of the main challenges in these Horizon projects is that the communication can quickly fade or can quickly get misunderstood. So fluid communication is central here. So that's why from January to March 2022, weekly meetings, fixed time, and then discussing. And also in this process, we also find out, we need more partners. We need a partner that does it specifically. Or in the call text has a sentence about that. None of the partners have that in paper. Of course, everyone can maybe say, I can do that very well throughout the project, but it's better to bring somebody that already has that baggage with them. So that in January, March 2022, that's what we do. Then in April 2022, we got the first draft of the proposal. So that was very good timing. So we can circulate. And also in March 2022, it was the invasion of Ukraine. So there I said, then the European Commission said Ukraine is joining the Horizon Europe, full membership. So in March 2022, I had to find out a new partner from Ukraine, because I knew having a new partner, Ukrainian partner, will give us an advantage compared to the competition, because it will bring more diversity in our user cases, more diversity in our partners, and more impact. So 3 weeks after the invasion, we started calling Ukrainian partners that we didn't have. We didn't know who to call. We just talked to all of them who has a secondary contact, and then try to bring them in. And this is very late to bring these partners in. Yeah. But it was a strategic decision that will give us an advantage. Then finally in April 2022, 2 weeks before, we already sent the proposal to the European Commission. You can do in submission system, you can submit and then submit many times until the end of the. So we want to be sure that everything is in place, no bugs in the system, information not missing, and the portal. So that's a very, very well written proposal, very well timed proposal, and some not too much stress at the last time. So that was very good here. So I was very happy with the process until April 2022. We did very well, wrote everything, and there was no major, let's say, situations where we had to fix things at the last minute, because we did a very good job. So that's also thing to think about it, because in the whole process about leading one of these projects, your reputation is at stake. You want to lead, you do badly once, then the next time you have less baggage to gather more partners. So what happened next? In July 2022, we got the results. We got 14 out of 15, the score. Very good score. I was very happy. But in this call, there were a 10% success rate, so very low success rate, 10%. And the winning proposal got 14.5, so 0.5 points more than us. And the European Commission put us in the waiting list as the second best project in this call. And then, but my experience is that in this particular call, in this particular destination, that we had a good chance because of the high score, and also because of the destination that maybe this get funded. So that's what happened in March 2023. I was jumping out of my office when I got this, and that we got this, and then we started the project in 2023. So but I have been many EU projects. I have many grants as a work package leader, task leader, and now as a lead coordinator. What I see as the main common stuff that happens on this project? What is the commonality that I will say from my perspective? I see. One is good and serious leadership. You need somebody that is good and serious about this, that is driving this process, taking decisions. That's key. Have a good and serious leadership. Then, at least starting 4 months before. I think you need to start at least 4 months before. Otherwise, the partners you want to recruit are gone. Your own time is compromised for the next 4 months, unless you have nothing to do in the next 4 months. So it really takes time to build this up. I mean, you can still do in 4 months. That's not out of the picture. I've seen proposals built in less than 4 months, but these were with very low chance. And I knew that these with low lead time proposals have almost no chance. But I still joined them because this is a collaboration effort. This is a work collaboration because there's many things you learn. There are many networks that you build. So it's not only about the success, it's about the process and about creating new ideas. So, and then other things to hold regular meetings and call people, phone calls, and just, picking up the phone and just call. You need a lot of fluid communication, as I mentioned earlier, clear objectives that are achievable, strong impact. The implementation has been coherent and viable, as was mentioned in the previous talk. and this partners diversity and competence. And another key philosophy on my side is that the call text has to be addressed 150% or more, not 100%. If you say the call text says you need something XXX, and then you put something XXX in your proposal, but the something XXX is interpreted by the reviewer as a different or not entirely 100% matching what you said, then you are not meeting the criteria just because the reviewer had a different perspective. So what you should do, you should build 2 XXX in the proposal, so they are fully backed up. Then other perspectives on grants. I think this is already said a couple of times that you need to speak up. I think this really helps. Speak up, showing up interest and collaboration. Then finding strong, reliable partners that you learn a little bit by doing it. And then you need to believe in this. You need to really believe in it. And then this is a try. And then in all these proposals, there's drama. There's always drama about something that is not working, that a partner is late, that somebody has not done the stuff. So drama is coming always. So that's why if you have more time, you can manage the drama better. Yeah, so I wanted to mention the last thing. It's about Hey Canada. So I wanted to mention that I'm building a proposal for the calls that were mentioned 1 hour ago. So I'm building a proposal on this long-term, long-duration energy storage. This is a Horizon project that's going to be funded, €7 million project. These are a little bit the parameters of the call. And I have my core team in place already. And I'm starting this expansion of the partners, as I mentioned on my recipe. So we need Canada. We need you. So please get in touch if you want to join this call. I think we are looking for a demonstration case on long duration energy storage that is hands-on. So with a research partner, of course, that is interested. So just get in touch. And thanks for the invitation and thanks for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro, but I will not let you off the hook, even if we have only 2 minutes before we have to allow Tamara to speak. Because there are some questions for you in the chat, and I thought that this is really important that you answer them live. So one is about the type of support you received from your university, and what are the key ones? Just, name them in bullet points. What is the most important support you received from your university? And then another one is, what is your strategy to maintain the partner engagement? So how to keep the partners in line throughout the project in a way? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
So I think Norway has provided a very good framework on incentivizing project applications. We are not stressed in Norway about sending application. There is no a push, but there's incentive. And then the way we have that is because we have an EU office, EU coordinator or EU administrative person that also helps here in our group. So helps coordinate the proposal development, not the scientific part, but the administration process and so on. So that puts a little bit, some relief on the researcher or the professor or the scientific staff. Still, the scientific has to do most of the things, but having an administrator has the advantage of another eye. Another thing that the Research Council of Norway does is that for anyone who participates in EU projects, they have a small grant of €15,000 if you lead the project, because you will need time, capacity, maybe hire some people, then you will get this support in terms of to write the lead. And if you are a work package leader, you receive 4,000 euros for support, because our time, goes into this, and the time it goes into this is needs some kind of support and compensation. And then also I think the core for me is having somebody administrator next to me that can also take a look on certain things. And if I need with these 4,000 or these 10,000 euros we get from the local research council, we also hire a consultant that might take up certain parts, because it's a really large effort. But And then the other question was?
About keeping the partners engaged.
Oh, yeah. So throughout the project, keeping the practice engaged, that's very hard. That's very hard. And then I'm not good at it too much myself. But the only thing I try to tell them is that a little bit Norwegian style in Norway work in a strong setting of collaboration and trust. And I tell everyone that, you are here working with me and we trust you have to do what is committed in the proposal. But still you need to chase a lot of people throughout the project. So I do monthly meetings in the project, and then I do monthly work package meetings, and this is a good way. Another way is that you organize every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, a core team meeting. So that you keep decentralized the process, and then the core team, that's another way. There are different ways. And this is the way you can keep track and put everything online. Yeah.
I think we'll stop here. Pedro, you have a question in the chat that you can answer in writing.
Yeah.
In the Q&A, and I think that we really have to wrap up. So I will ask Tamara to come. And Tamara, just to let you know, very early today we had a question that is, in my opinion, also very important to be answered by you. Yeah. So Tamara, you will have it probably in your presentation. But I'm flagging it up front that the question was, if we assume most Canadians are looking to join an application like Elsewhere, is it perhaps better to focus on which call secondary to networking into the team? And the question also was about how the Canadian NCPs can help. And I thought that actually your presentation will answer this. So please, without further ado.
Yes, I feel that my presentation will probably answer this question. But if it doesn't, I'm happy to follow up. So my name is Tamara Sohn. I'm the National Contact Point Coordinator for Canada, and I will share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Yes.
Yep. Looks good.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the question that I'm also often getting, so we're talking about support. Where can you find support for Canadians? So where do you find partners and collaborators? Well, you find partners and collaborators first and foremost by using your own network. It is likely you already have a network of Canadians or Europeans that you already work with. So I would recommend that you start there. You can participate in the information days, both online, and if you're able to travel to Brussels, I would encourage you to do so. But a lot of the brokerage and info days this year are online only, which is good and bad, because sometimes the timing is not ideal, but they're always recorded, so you can watch them afterwards. Furthermore, you can go into the Funding and Tenders portal. The Funding and Tenders portal has a partner search tool. It's a bit stagnant, but it is an opportunity to see who's looking for partners, and you can post your information there. Furthermore, there's the European Enterprise Network, especially if you're a business. They have a partner search tool in ECCIR is the Canadian entity for the European Enterprise Network. It's linked in this slide, so they can help you find partners as well. There's the EU project database, Cordis. This is a very powerful website, and I do recommend that it's possibly one of the most important ways to find partners, because it's a tool where you can go and you can search for because it lists all of the previously successful projects and all their contact information in the successful project. So you can do a keyword search, you can find previously successful projects, and you can message the coordinator or other participants and see if they're interested in working on future projects. Again, you can also get your national contact points, like myself, and there's national contact points for each cluster. Or you can also go to the Trade Commissioner Services. The Trade Commissioner Services is through Global Affairs Canada. They have a huge network of both Canadians and are familiar with the European landscape. So there are offices in most European countries. So my recommendation, you can also reach out to them to help you find partners or your NCPs as well. So between the two of us, or those two groups, that's a great Canadian resource for you. And their research publications. So they always at the end of the research publication, you can see who was cited. It gives you some idea of who else is in that field that you may already know, as well as industry associations are a great way to find partners. So what are your national contact points? National contact points is Horizon Europe is an extremely complex program. So as a requirement of our association, Canada is required to have national contact points to help signpost and help Canadians navigate the Horizon Europe landscape. So there's subject matter experts in our field and have a strong awareness of both domestic and international expertise in their particular cluster. So as you can see, we have NCPs for each of these clusters. And I would also like to point out that these NCPs are also they're also Government of Canada employees. The reason for that is they're also attending program committee meetings, which is also a benefit of our association to the program, where we are able to attend these meetings and influence the upcoming work program calls. So that's a really exciting change as part of our association. So furthermore, if you would like more information or kept up to date on Horizon Europe things or the latest and greatest, we have some matchmaking events coming up, especially focused on Cluster 5. So if you want to learn more about those, please sign up for our newsletter. We also have a dedicated Horizon Europe webpage for Canadians. It is currently being updated, so there'll be a lot of new information coming in shortly. But those are great. If you have any questions, of course, you can use our website as well. If anyone has any questions, I'm free to answer them.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that we suddenly received quite a lot of questions in the Q&A, and it's not that we have enough time to answer them all, but what I propose is that we gather them and then maybe answer in writing, because I would say that at least one or two are directly relevant to Tamara. To you as well, so we can try and answer better. And without further ado, because we are very late, I wanted then to close this webinar, and I wanted to invite for the closing remarks Zara Pinheiro Lozano, the program manager at the delegation of the European Union to Canada.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. And thanks, of course, very much to Tamara and the rest of the speakers for spending their time with us and responding to all these questions. And to all of you, all the participants, I hope that you found it useful. We are hoping to continue with this series of webinars on Horizon Europe to cover the rest of the cluster. So please stay tuned to our announcements. And also just to mention then that we will put this recording, we will upload it to the EU delegation's YouTube channel, so you can review it anytime. And of course, if you have any questions, any suggestions on what else the EU delegation here in Ottawa could do in terms of activities to promote Horizon Europe, we're all ears, and we would really very much welcome your suggestions. So thanks very much to all of you, and we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you.